been a while for an update. Been a lot of piddly shit done. It all adds up. Not very exciting, but the little stuff around the engine that needs to be done in order to get it fired up. Speaking of which, hopefully very, very soon we're gonna fire it up and break in the cam and everything so that it's closer to being able to go on the road. Once we get it running, we can then work on the body parts as we have time, but get it out of the garage and mobile at least. These fenders are going to be getting fit on today. Before that, I'll just show you the progress that's been made. Might have to have Dad come in later and explain some of it, or point out things that I forgot, but I'll try to cover it. Okay, the distributor's not set for timing or anything. It is in there, and these are all in their correct places. The spark plug cables that I got were really long, so they're kind of ungainly looking, and the set didn't come with a coil wire, so I had to go and get a coil wire from AutoZone. They didn't know what the hell they were talking about, so they just let us walk around the back until we found the one we wanted. So there's that. Dad replaced the starter solenoid, I think for shits more than anything. That's all wired up properly. We've tested it by letting the starter turn it over. It's really tight right now. It's got a lot of compression, which is to be expected. The thing that tells the heater how to turn on and off is connected through vacuum to the switch up there. It was pretty broken, so we just have this, which is just a dial that you turn to open or close it manually, and got those lines installed with new line. A lot of new vacuum lines, because all the old stuff that we had was pretty dry rotted or old, so like the brake booster vacuum line, that's new. All the vacuum lines are basically new. And then back under this breather, we also have new vacuum lines going down to the transmission. This manifold vacuum port, ours was broken, and if you go to the auto parts store, the only one they have is plastic and breaks easy, so we went to Ace Hardware and just got some fittings and made our own. The plastic one from O'Reilly's was like $25, and we built this big heavy-duty metal thing that'll never break for like $22. So I mean, it's still a lot of money for something silly and small, but that'll last forever. And the carburetor stuff is all put together now. This kickdown arm, basically Dad just bent it where it needed to be bent to not rub up against the throttle arm. And then it took a few springs and a kit and everything to get the springs all playing right with each other. This coil still needs to be mounted right. The bracket doesn't hold it very tight. The stuff for the fan, to wire the fan we want to, hasn't come in yet because some of it's back ordered. So this is all the wires that we will use for that. For the purpose of engine braking, we're just going to wire it direct, the low speed, and keep it running the whole time. The ignition control box is up here, mounted back there. We're getting the vacuum canisters prepped up and clean. Gouged myself pretty good by getting the wire wheel on the drill stuck in the hole in my pants and letting it crawl up my thigh, so that was fun. Still need to take care of the power steering and the brakes because of the differences involved with the Crown Vic setup. Probably do a separate video just on that to wrap up everything related to the Crown Vic swap in one little video separate from the rest of this update. The Crown Vic videos are pretty popular in terms of getting more views than me just rambling about all this random shit. Dad also, as I predicted, got this dash pretty well wired up. It'll be hard to see because it's dark. The gauges are all in, and he, as you might or might not be able to see, got all the gauges wired up. He basically looked at the back of the old instrument cluster and just figured out where things went and simulated it with wiring that. Turns out the Haynes manual has more useful wiring diagrams than the actual factory manual, so he's been using that pretty extensively, but other than that, just kind of tracing where things go and figuring it out. I could have never done it, so I'm glad he did. Did have one issue. We have an analog oil pressure gauge, which you can see right there behind that oil filter. That's actually a tube that when the engine starts, the oil's pumping anyway, the oil actually fills in that tube, and it's run along in our wiring harness here up through the dash and to that gauge, so it actually gives you a true oil pressure reading. Dad made all the trouble of putting it in and taking real good care of it and putting it through that wiring harness once before. And when we primed the engine with oil using an engine primer through the distributor hole, we got like a quart of oil on the ground pretty quick. and found out that there was a hole in the tube. Well, that tube was brand new from O'Reilly's and just came with a crack in it, and they took care of it and replaced it, no questions asked. But it was a real pain in the ass, and we lost pretty much an entire day because we had to tear all that back apart and put a new one in, redo all of it. So if you're gonna run an analog oil pressure gauge, kind of test and see if there's a hole in it first, because it'll save you time. Most people said they've never even heard of that. Of course, we ran into it because we are the black sheep of death. And since all the coolers, transmission cooler and everything else are installed, we put in the grill inserts. The ones that I had were all busted in multiple places and missing chunks. These aren't actually from a 73, so if you know what you're looking at, you'll see it and go, that's not 73. Yeah, it's not 73, but they were like 30 bucks for the pair from a guy, so that's what I've got for now. Had some questions about where in Virginia I'm at. I'm not in Virginia, I'm in Missouri. I was in Virginia in the Navy and just drove this back, so yeah, I'm in St. Louis, not Virginia. So I think that more or less covers what we've been doing slowly but surely. Got oil in it, it's got transmission fluid in it, I put water in the radiator. We're just gonna use water for the break-in so that it also, whenever we drain it, gets whatever kind of gunk was in there from the machine shop. And whenever we get it ready to drive, that's when we'll put actual antifreeze in it. I'm sure I missed something, but Dad'll remind me and I'll throw it in there. You won't even know that it was different, so I don't know why I'm talking about it now, because it'll be seamless through the magic of video editing. Sorry to waste your time. We got the fenders slapped on. Get a first look at the way the tire looks, the wheel well, the overall lean of the truck. Can't really see it too good with it in the garage, but get the idea. On second thought, fuck this update, we'll have a better one tomorrow.